Start na.
Ganihara ay.
Balik, balik, balik.
Sige.
One, two, three. Start. Good day, everyone. I hope okay rang tanan. By the way, this is Luigi Baril speaking. Before we begin, let me ask you a simple question, guys. Do you think grammar is still important when learning English? Based on Sugiharto's article, Why We Should Teach Grammar, grammar teaching is still relevant today because it supports meaningful communication. Next slide, please. So, as you see, grammar has been debated in language teaching for many years. Some teachers and linguists say that we don't need to focus too much on grammar anymore. Some say we should focus only on communication, letting students speak freely and naturally without worrying about mistakes. However, others believe grammar remains important because it helps learners express their ideas clearly and accurately. Without grammar instruction, students might continue making the same mistakes, like a process known as fossilization, where errors become part of their usual speech and are hard to correct over time. That's why this study explains why teaching grammar still matters in EFL classrooms. Based on Sigaharto's article, Why We Should Teach Grammar. Like following the rule of relevance, grammar should not just be taught as mere memorization of rules. Instead, it also should be connected to real life use, making it meaningful and practical for learners. Like when students see how grammar relates to what they actually say or write, they learn to communicate more effectively and confidently. So no, as future teachers, let's remember that grammar is not just about correctness. It's about helping students make sense of language in real communication and focus to avoid fossilization. And now, to further explain the main purpose of this study, let me pass the floor to our next presenter. Thank you for listening.
So, good morning, everyone. For this part, I will explain the three main purposes of the study and why they are important for our teaching practice. So, first, the article aims to explain the importance of grammar instruction for English learners. So, what the author means is that grammar gives learners the structure they need to build clear and correct sentences. In EFL context, students do not always get enough natural exposure to English, so explicit grammar teaching helps them understand how language works. For example, the teaching past tense with a storytelling task helps students speak about past events clearly, not just in single words but in connected, meaningful sentences. And second, the study also aims to show that grammar teaching should be meaningful and relevant to students' needs, and this means teachers should select grammar items that actually help students reach their goals. And if a class needs to write emails, it is more useful to teach polite request forms than obscure advanced grammar. Kay when grammar is taught with real tasks like reading a short article, writing an email, or doing a role play, kay makuan siya sa students that they can see the purpose of grammar and are more motivated to learn it. And third, the study aims to provide insights for teachers on how and when grammar should be taught. This means, and this is about the timing and method, kay not every grammar point is taught at the same time, and not every points kanang need siya og long explicit instruction. And the author suggests a balanced approach to teach key points or key forms explicitly when students need them, then give contextual practice of students that students can apply the grammar in real communication. Say, for example, introduce conditionals only after students have practiced cause and effect language. Then, ilang i-use for the pair tasks that require conditional sentences. So, in short of this purpose of the study or the aims of the author in this article, the study tells us that grammar teaching is still necessary but must be helpful and well timed. Grammar should help students communicate better, not just to be a list of rules to memorize. That's why this article supports the rule of relevance to teach grammar that matters to learners now. And that's all for my part, and I'll now hand over to the next sharer who will give the or who will discuss the next part. Thank you.
Good day, everyone. I am Shinami A. Putat, and today, now let's proceed to the methodology used in the article. Okay, so the author used qualitative research and a literature review as the main methodology. So this means that instead of conducting experiments, surveys, or gathering numerical data, the author focused on collecting, analyzing, and interpreting ideas and findings from the existing studies. And so by reviewing different academic papers, books, and journals, the author was able to understand what has already been discovered about grammar teaching. He carefully examined previous theories, classroom practices, and expert opinions on how grammar has been taught over time. So this helped him identify patterns, strengths, and weaknesses in the different ways teachers approach grammar instruction. So Miss Jenny Magtoto will continue discussing the methodology of this article. That's all for my part. Thank you.
Yes, so according to Sogi Harto that he compared different opinion about two major approaches, which is the explicit grammar instruction and implicit grammar instruction. So according to Sogi Harto that explicit grammar means teaching grammar rule directly, while on the other hand, implicit instruction, which means learning grammar naturally through communication and practice. However, his conclusion suggests that explicit grammar teaching, when done meaningfully and connected to real communication, it's still very important in EFL classroom. In the end, Sogi Harto supported explicit grammar, saying that it still plays an important role in helping EFL learners develop accuracy and clear communication, it's especially when it's taught in meaningful and practical ways. Through this method, the author was able to understand which approaches works better for English learners in EFL classroom. And that's it. And I think I'll need to pass it to the next presenter.
Next slide, please. Okay. Uh, this is the key findings of this article. First, First, grammar isn't just about rules, it's about empowerment. We've found that grammar helps learners build accurate and meaningful sentences. So this means students can express their ideas more effectively and with greater confidence. By understanding grammar, they're not just memorizing patterns, but actively constructing their thoughts in a clear and precise manner. Secondly,
Our research indicates that grammar supports clear communication and better writing skills. Think of grammar as the backbone of effective communication. When students grasp grammatical concepts, their ability to articulate ideas, whether in writing or speech, it improves dramatically. This in return enhances their overall communication competence. Now, this is crucial. Grammar teaching should not be rule memorization. It must show how grammar works in context. In rote learning of rules without understanding their application is ineffective. Instead, we need to demonstrate how grammar functions in real life scenarios using authentic text and practical examples. This approach helps students see the relevance of grammar and how it operates dynamically in various contexts. Lastly, we've observed that EFL, as English as a foreign language students, need grammar support since English is not used daily. For many of our students, English is not the language they use outside the classroom, right? Therefore, targeted grammar instruction is essential to bridge this gap. By providing this support, we equip them with the tools they need to navigate and succeed in an English speaking environment. So, these key findings highlight the importance of a holistic approach to a grammar instruction. It's about empowering learners, fostering clear communication, and contextualizing grammar, and providing targeted support for EFL students. And that's all for me. Thank you.
So again, good day everyone. So I am Juliana M. Balbuena. So on this part, we have the author's argument. So according to the article, Sugihara 2021 emphasizes that grammar instruction remains necessary and beneficial in English language teaching. According to the author, grammar should not be viewed as a set of isolated rules, but rather as a tool that supports meaningful communication. Sugihara points out that teachers must focus on why grammar is taught and how it contributes to the student's ability to communicate effectively. In other words, grammar instruction should have clear purpose. It should help learners express ideas accurately and confidently, not just memorize rules for their own sake. The author further explains that when grammar is taught in context and connected to a real communication, students become more aware of language use and can apply grammar naturally in speaking and writing. So, overall, Sugihara argues that grammar teaching remains essential, but it must be purposeful, communicative, and learner centered. So, I think that's all for my part. Can we have the next speaker, please?
Yes, thank you. So, good day, everyone. For this part, I will be discussing the practical implications. First, teacher teachers should choose grammar topics that are relevant to student goals. This means selecting lessons that connect with what students actually need in real life communication, such as writing essays, preparing for interviews, or everyday conversation. Second, we should integrate grammar with speaking, reading, and writing tasks. Instead of teaching grammar separately, it should be practiced through meaningful activities like dialogues, reading passages, and writing exercises. This helps students see how grammar works in real context. Next, third is it's important to use real examples and situations or contexts. When students encounter grammar through authentic materials like news articles, social media posts, or real conversations, they understand its purpose better and can apply it more naturally. Now, lastly, we must avoid teaching grammar in isolation. Teaching grammar alone without context makes learning mechanical and less effective. Grammar should always be linked to communication and understanding. So, in summary, this practical implication remind us that grammar teaching should always be purposeful, connected, and relevant to learners or in real world needs. And thank you. That's it for me.
Next slide. Okay, so now I'm Alvarez Eunice Nicole, and we're focusing today on foundational principle in language teaching, which is the rule of relevance. So the rule core message is this: grammar should be taught only when it is useful and necessary. So this means we don't teach grammar rules just because they exist. We need a reason, and the rule challenges the traditional method of teaching entire textbooks of dry rules that only students immediately forget. So like for example, don't start a class with lessons on the subjunctive mood, like I wish I were rich. So that, I mean, if your students are still struggling with basic present tense verbs, that advanced, less common grammar is not useful or necessary for their current communications level because it is focused on high frequency practical items first. Next is the rule directs us to focus on what students can apply in real communication. So the goal of language learning is to communicate, like to speak, write, read, and listen effectively. That's the goal of language learning. So therefore, any grammar lesson must be tied directly to a task or context where the student can immediately use the new structure. Like instead of teaching the present perfect tense in isolation, teach it while the students are discussing their recent life experiences or accomplishment. Like for example, I have traveled to Europe, or I have finished my assignment. So this provides a real communicative context for the grammar. And finally, the rule of relevance gives a strong warning. Avoid teaching grammar that has no immediate use or context. So if the grammar point has no clear way to improve the student's current ability to express themselves or understand others, it's irrelevant for now because teaching it will likely just overwhelm them and lead to cognitive overload. For example, avoiding spending an hour explaining the difference between the past participle as an adjective versus the gerund as a noun, like for example, the stolen car versus swimming is fun. So if the students are currently working on writing a simple email to a friend, that complex distinction has no immediate use in their task and will only confuse them. Okay? So for the summary for this rule of relevance, it is a call for efficiency and effectiveness. So it is us to prioritize grammar that is high impact and immediately usable. So this rule of relevance is to ensure that every minute spent on a rule helps our students become better communicators right away. And that's all for the rule applied.
Next slide, please. So, pleasant afternoon. Morning, everyone. So, I am Stephanie Ballas. I'm gonna tackle about the conclusion. So, in conclusion, let's have the first bullet. Grammar is not outdated. It is essential for understanding how English works. So, in conclusion, grammar is not old-fashioned or irrelevant. Instead, it plays a crucial role in helping students truly understand the English language. Since many EFL learners do not use English daily, so formal grammar instruction gives them the tools to produce accurate and meaningful sentences. Like according to Sugihara notes, that grammar instruction helps shape learners' ability to create language structures that reflect both correctness and meaningful communication. Let's have the second one. Teaching grammar should focus on meaningful use, not memorization. So, secondly, instead of focusing on memorizing isolated rules, grammar teaching should be meaningful and connected to real communication. When students see how grammar works in real life situations, such as grammar must be taught in context, like showing learners why is it important and how it is functioned within everyday language. This makes learning more engaging and practical. So let's have the last bullet, which is teacher must ensure grammar lessons are relevant, engaging, and purposeful. So lastly, grammar lessons should be relevant and purposeful. According to Sugihara, emphasize that teachers should align grammar topics with learners' goals and integrate grammar teaching with other language skills like speaking, reading, and writing. This approach helps students apply grammar in real life situations, boosting their confidence and communication skills. So, overall, by focusing on what truly matters to learners, grammar teaching becomes not just a lesson but a powerful key unlocking doors to meaningful communication and real life world confidence, where every word learned steps closer to breaking barriers and connecting within the world. And that's all. Let's have the next reporter.
All right. So this is the last part, the reference. This slide shows the reference used for our report. The article we based our discussion on is written by Sitiono Sugiharto in 2021, titled Why We Should Teach Grammar: Insights for EFL Classroom Teachers. It was published in the Indonesian Journal of English Teacher Language Teaching, Volume 16, Issue Number 1. We also included the link to the source, which is from the Atmajaya University's e-journal website, where we found and read the full article. So we include the reference because it is important because it gives credit to the original author and shows that our report is based on credible academic research. So thank you so much for listening and have a good day. Bye.